If you've ever seen a film about Mexico's drug conflicts, you'll find a mixture of exaggerated facts and embellished fiction, but there are no lies about the beheadings. These are the actual, ongoing, and inhumane methods used to eliminate spies and traitors. The drug conflicts, which have been ongoing for over 14 years, have resulted in numerous displays of such cruelty, the horrors of which served to deter enemies and intimidate allies. In 2011, at the height of the drug mafia's reign of terror, a video of a nephew and his uncle being beheaded went viral on the internet, but they were not the only victims of such treatment. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we'll be looking at the cartel members who murdered people with chainsaws. Yeah, you heard it right. Beware of the beheading. The video depicted a horrifying scene. Felix Gomez Garcia and Barnabas Gomez Castro sat helplessly in front of a dilapidated wall with their wrists tied behind their backs. The history of Mexico's drug organizations provides a great deal of insight into the origins of these sadistic punishments. The formation of the first drug cartels began in the 1970s, but their violence proliferated dramatically in 2006. This resulted in what appeared to be an endless conflict between the cartels, the police, and the general public. Everyone in Mexico and the rest of the world is aware that getting involved with the drug cartels is tantamount to signing a death warrant. Many films glorify the gruesome tales. These independent organizations have brought violence and anarchy to Mexico on their own. To establish dominance and maintain control, they forged strategic alliances while destabilizing and annihilating their rivals. They evaded capture for decades and organized into the most potent drug trafficking underworld in world history. The government's efforts to control drug-related offenses were futile. More people were killed by military crackdowns than by drug cartels. Their failure proved the drug traffickers' proficiency, as they instead branched out into smaller, faster, and deadlier organizations. Shorty, the drug lord who took Mexico by storm. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, also known as Shorty, became the world's most potent drug lord by acquiring power and control through murder, theft, smuggling, bribery, and other heinous crimes. Throughout the 2000s, he maintained firm control over the country's illicit trades, particularly in the Northwest and along the Pacific coast. El Chapo's unspeakable atrocities placed Mexico under the rule of corruption for many years, until he was sent to prison in the United States. He smuggled over $12 billion worth of narcotics using ingenious means. Although El Chapo was apprehended in 2016, numerous drug trafficking organizations, including the notorious Sinaloa cartel, ascended to prominence under his influence. Currently one of the largest drug cartels in the world, it is notorious for violence and murder, uprooting countless lives, Felix and Barnabas being only two of the innumerable, nameless, and faceless victims. Doomed to suffering, possibly the only crime committed by the Gomezes was their involvement with narcotics cartels. They acknowledged working with halcones, paid subordinates, and drug smugglers for the internationally renowned and filthy rich El Chapo. Regardless of how perilous the jobs were, it is highly dubious whether they were worthwhile. Barnabas Gomez Castro asserted that they had always been paid poorly by the drug cartels, which are notorious for employing impressionable, impoverished individuals to perform dehumanizing and hazardous work at great personal risk. Prior to their murder, they were paid only 300 pesos, approximately $21 for their final task, an amount that was insufficient for two lives that ended in the most gruesome ways imaginable. The final moments of their lives were spent being interrogated by a group of vicious men who recorded their ordeal as if they were relishing the show. They answer all inquiries despite being defeated, exhausted, and hopeless, accepting their impending fate and admitting defeat. Their blatant indifference could be a result of their defeated spirits, but some suspect that drugs have been coerced into their systems. The video provoked outrage and calls for the destruction of the narcotics cartel. It also demanded that Hollywood cease glorifying and profiting from the horrifying truth about drug cartel tactics. The chainsaw and the hunting knife, a brutal spectacle. At the time of their execution, neither man displays any trace of resistance. It appears that mortality has already claimed them. Even the chainsaw's harsh howls were unable to rouse them from their trance. A person with a conscience and a beating heart might have felt pity, but the man in the military uniform who approached the tortured uncle with a chainsaw in his hand did not. Barnabas Gomez Castro was fortunate, according to those who were familiar with the brutality and violence of the Mexican drug cartels. Regardless of how fearsome he was, the chainsaw swiftly ended his life. It prevented him from experiencing unbearable agony for too long, as his head separated from his body. The nephew sat bravely in his uncle's blood, which had been splattered on him during the vile act. As he waited for his turn, he was unaware that he was about to experience a far worse fate. these torturers had another plan in mind for him, a hunting weapon. What these men did to Felix Gomez Garcia is too traumatic to discuss. He had a deeper connection to the drug traffickers, so he received a harsher punishment. A disguised person sawed through his neck without remorse, his feeble cries scarcely escaped his severed throat and were lost in the throng of ruthless, soulless criminals. His final cries for assistance can be heard on the video as the knife slashes through his spinal cord and ends his suffering. Seeing a man's head severed from his body is genuinely horrifying, but the barbaric act does not end there. A man approaches the deceased relative and places his severed head on his lifeless body as if displaying a trophy. This execution's barbarism shook the public to its core, provoking unprecedented levels of outrage. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so that you never miss our upcoming videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you in the next video.